Professor 𝐲𝐞𝐚𝐫-𝐨𝐥𝐝.
Yes, sir.
Welcome and have a seat, please.
Thank you, Chairman.
My name is Nelson Makanda. I am the chair of this selection panel. Allow me to thank you for showing interest in the positions that we advertised and to congratulate you for being shortlisted for the same. I would like to invite my colleagues here to introduce themselves, and having done so, we will come to you. Linda, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Kinoti.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair.
My name is Linda 𝐲𝐞𝐚𝐫. I serve this panel as a Vice Chair. Chairman, let me make a disclosure. I served with Mr. Kinoti as a council member at the Meru National Polytechnic a few years ago. I have not seen him since then, but I am certain that I will make objective analysis for the assessment for purposes of this interview. Karibu sana, Mr. Kinoti.
Thank you.
Chair, I also want to start by saying that I worked with 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐨𝐭𝐢 at the Boundaries Review Commission. So he's somebody that I know. So 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐨𝐿, my name is Andrew Tanui, a member of the selection panel. Thank you.
Andrew.
Good afternoon, 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐶.
Good afternoon, Madam.
Caroline Kituku, karibu sana.
Asante.
Good afternoon, 𝐷𝐾𝐚𝐫-𝐨𝐥𝐝.
Good afternoon.
My name is Adam Solo, a member of this selection panel.
Thank you, Professor.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon,
My
sir.
name is Nicodemus Bore. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Good afternoon, Mr. Muridi.
Good afternoon, Madam.
My name is Fatuma Ali Saman, a member of the panel. Please feel welcome.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Muridi.
Good afternoon.
Karibu sana.
Yes.
My name is 𝐲𝐞𝐚𝐫-𝐨𝐿, and I'm a member of this panel.
Thank you, Madam.
Good afternoon, Kinoti.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is 𝐻𝐿𝐺𝐵𝐻𝐿 Misati. I'm a member of this selection panel, and we welcome you to this interaction session.
Thank you, sir.
I will come to you and ask you to introduce yourself to us, highlight those things in your profile that you think are significant for us to note, and that are relevant for the position you have applied for. Let us know if you have any awards that you have received or honors, and if you're a member of any professional society or group. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me first start by saying I'm really honored to sit before you. I know it was very competitive. There were so many of those who applied, and I don't take it for granted that I found my way in this panel to come and share my experiences with you as I learned so much from these eminent panelists. My name is 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐶-𝐵𝐽𝐻𝐚-𝐫𝐨𝐿. 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐶 is from Meru, born and bred in Meru. I attended a primary school in Meru, local primary school, where I excelled, and then also moved to a local secondary school for my O-levels that time, called 𝐷𝐾𝐚𝐫 Secondary School, where again I was top of the class in my time, and I enjoyed Jiris High School for my A-level, where I studied mathematics, physics, and chemistry, and I passed well. I was admitted to the Faculty of Engineering, University of Nairobi, Department of Surveying and Photogrammetry, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in surveying and photogrammetry. Later, while I was still working, I got a scholarship from the government, from JICA and Government of Kenya, and I was sponsored to go and study at the Geographical Survey Institute in Japan, in Tsukuba, Japan, where I studied surveying and mapping. Then later in life, when Module 2 was introduced in Nairobi University, I sponsored myself for a master's in planning, urban and regional planning, and I graduated in 2008, and I also believe I excelled in that training as well. My work experience, immediately after graduating from Nairobi University, with my first degree, I was employed by Survey of Kenya and posted to Mombasa, Provincial Survey Office. Then after working for only about 1 year, I was seconded to the Department of Settlement in the same ministry and posted to Marine Settlement Scheme project. Marine project was a project that was co-financed by Australian government and the government of Kenya to set up schemes to settle the landless in mostly in Kilifi and the coast region. And I was appointed there to serve as the project surveyor and planner. And I worked there for 3 years. It was a very difficult place. Many of my previous colleagues had been posted there and they resigned or didn't want to go. But when I started working, I had an adage where I said, you cannot give up as an unstarter. So it endured on me that I'm the one to being posted in this hardship area, and then I couldn't give up as an unstarter. So I said, I'll go there. And after 3 years, I think I left a mark. In every place that I've gone, I've left a mark. After 3 years, and surveyed and planned and surveyed and demarcated over 30,000 acres, and which could enable settlement of over 1,000 farmers, because every farmer was supposed to get 30 acres. The other achievement I got there, of course, I was promoted to the next job group. And because the place there was very lonely, imagine coming from Mombasa and then you are taken to a place which is remote. There were bandits who were attacking us sometimes. There was no road, there was no telephone, there was no social life basically. So what I decided is to start a football team for all the young people who are working in the project and outside. And because I was a football player myself in my youth, I became both a coach and a player, and I actually registered that team with KFF. And by the time I was leaving, they were in the provincial league in Mombasa, in Coast Region. The third thing I achieved was maybe funny. This is the place actually where I got my first lead, my first half. A beautiful girl from Murang'a who had just landed there, straight from college, and I was also young. And we just became friends. And imagine she has been my wife for over 33 years. And over those 33 years, I've never raised my hand on her. She has never raised her voice on me. I thank God. I think she was God sent.
Congratulations.
Yes. Then as fate would have it, I thought Marine was very difficult. After promotion, I was sent to Garissa. And you can imagine that was in the 1990s, actually 1990. And I was sent there to open the district survey office because there was no office, there was only a provincial office. And it was a difficult area that time with bandits. That's the first time I saw policemen wearing bullets everywhere in the body, like sashes, to escort us when we are traveling to Nairobi or coming from Nairobi all the way to Bangali. But we continued and we worked very well. I enjoyed actually working in Garissa. And I also left a mark there because when I was there is when actually Siad Barre was overthrown from Somalia. And you can imagine the flurry of refugees who are crossing the border. And I was now tasked, approached by UNHCR to set up the IFO and Agadera, which is now the Dadaab refugee settlement place, to be able to settle those people as they come. Very difficult. And the people I was given, because it was very difficult, I was given Ethiopian refugees and every refugee with a police person. So I had over 30 of them in the field. And at night we set the tents, but at night they dig what they call andaki. Andaki, I think, are those trenches where you sleep in a sleeping bag, and then at night you would sleep there, and then during the day we would go to work. And when I asked the policeman why, what was the logic, They said when you are attacked, people will shoot at the tents, but they will not be able to get you in the trenches. So we spent the night in the trenches. Then the next day we go work, and it worked out very well. And that is how the Dadaab refugee place came into place. After that, that's also when I got a scholarship actually to go to Japan when I was in Garissa. And after Japan, I came back to the Ministry of Lands. I was posted to Nairobi to work with the Japanese who are setting up the School of Surveying, which is currently called Kenya Institute of Mapping, Surveying and Mapping. But I worked only for about 4 months. And the director posted me to Kirinyaga. He actually told me there are problems in Kirinyaga, and the DC has sent away the staff, and you must go there. So I went there. You can't give up as an unstarter. I went to Kirinyaga, and I enjoyed working in Kirinyaga. The actual problem which was there actually was, I think, the politics and the boundary disputes. And when I studied the boundary disputes, I came to realize.
We'll need to summarize. Yes.
I actually realized boundary disputes are manifestations of other disputes. So we were able to solve the other disputes first and then solve the boundary. And that's when I was given an award for distinguished service during the celebrations of Moi 20 years. Then after that, I was posted to Nairobi, where I worked briefly. And after succeeding in getting my professional qualifications, I requested the director that I resign and go into private practice, which he reluctantly agreed. I went to private practice. And in my private practice, I worked everywhere in the country and outside. I remembered a very good experience in the Rwanda Republic, where I was the first surveyor actually to introduce satellite imagery surveying to prepare base maps for planning in 2003. And I got again a very good award or recommendation from there. And after that, I also worked as a director in Kenya Roads Board, a part-time director. While I'm still practicing, we could go there for part-time. And I was appointed the chair of the technical committee first. And it is during my time that we were able to push the reforms in the road sector, including the enactment of the Roads 2007 and the current road authorities that we see today, the Kenya Urban Roads Authority, Kenya Rural Roads Authority, and the Kenya National Highways Authority. I also worked as a director of boundaries in the 𝐲𝐤𝐽 Commission, which was established in I joined in 2010. And my task there was to come up with the distribution of constituencies, the 290 constituencies. And we worked very hard. I developed a number of algorithms to try and delimit those boundaries. But I also realized that boundaries delimitation is not purely a mathematical process. It's actually largely a social science. It's not a mathematical science per se. There's a lot of social science. And then that's when I thought outside the box and developed another methodology that I called Seed Path Principle, or CPP, which was basically an analytical process of comparing lights and trying to see how to grow the constituencies using public participation and other items. And it's largely the method actually that I think is being used even today. From there, in 2013, I was appointed as a commissioner with the National Land Commission, the first commission. And it was a very new commission, of course, from the grass. And as fate would find me, I was the chairman of the human resource management, and we had no staff. So we recruited from the first person to what the commission was until the time we left. And my experience there, I think, was very nice, particularly in a different field that was not mine, human resource management, and actually to go and take training in human resource. And that's how I got a certificate as a certified human resource analyst. And chairman, that is briefly where I've worked. It's a long story. Currently, I'm working in my own farm. And what we've been doing mostly the last few years, we were doing bathymetric surveys. Bathymetric surveys is surveying the seabed. We've done that for the Ndongo-Kudu project, and the project is over. And actually, the way you see the piles now supporting the bridge, the work down there is us who did it, to be able to inform the engineers on the design of those columns to support the bridge. So
Thank
that
you.
is briefly
Thank you.
my CV.
Thank
But
you.
I've had other trainings in form of
Thank you. Thank you.
in the course of my working.
Linda, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Now, Mr. Kinoti, what unique competencies would you contribute to the commission in the event that you're taken up as a member?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Leader. I'm very good working with numbers. Very comfortable and competent working with numbers. I'm very good and competent working with maps from the source to the end. I've experience in human resource management from the nascent stage of setting up the commission to the end. And lastly, from my experiences on dispute resolutions, particularly when I was in Kirinyaga, I decided again to sponsor myself, and I got a certificate in dispute mediation. I'm now a certified mediator as we talk from last year. So those are the competencies I'll bring. My values is, number one is integrity. I don't compromise. Secondly, I'm polite. I'm sober 24 hours, but I'm very firm in my decisions. 3, I can even transnight when there is a task to be performed. God has blessed me with that energy. And I think those are the things that we need in the commission. And from my planning background, I think I can do very well in civic education. I want to say civic education, not necessarily voter education. I separate the voter and the civic education so that I think that line can be able to be focused clearly.
And between being a team player and a team leader, which one are you?
I'm a very good team player. I work with my people. You see, I established a football team so that my staff could be able to play with me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kinoti. I wish you the very best. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I invite Karo to ask you some questions. Karo, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Kinoti.
Yes, Catherine.
Caroline.
Caroline, okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Would you please explain to us what you understand to be the core mandate of the IEBC?
The core mandate of the IEBC, the way I understand it, is to conduct referenda and elections as required by the Constitution and any law that appertains to or relating to elections in this country. And that mandate is, in my view, is supported by a lot of functions. I don't know whether I can go into the functions and explain a few of them. Yes, so that mandate, holistic mandate, is firmed up by a number of functions, one including voter education, registration of voters, it's also part of it, delimitation of boundaries for electoral constituencies and wards, dispute resolutions for nomination of parties. There's also civic education, which I don't know why they don't separate, and carrying out the elections. When the elections are called, whether it's referenda or any type of elections, including by elections. And basically, those are some of the ones I can get right now.
Okay. So you spoke about delimitation of boundaries
Yes.
as one of the core functions of the IBC.
Yes.
From your own work experience
Yes.
as a surveyor and your previous experience working with the interim independent boundaries review commission,
Yes.
would you share with us or explain to us what are the key principles that you would follow should you become successful to be a member of the IBC to ensure that the delimitation of constituencies complies with the legal requirements and promotes fair representation in Kenya?
Thank you, Caroline. I started by saying the limitation of boundaries is not purely a mathematical algorithm affair. It is largely a social science also. And this idea, the idea of computing the population quota, the population divisions, anybody can do that. And there's no problem with that. The problem is now how to distribute and ensure that the constituencies, populations, as near as possible to their population quota. And also while doing that, whether those boundaries that you are delimiting are acceptable to the people. Because you may do very nice things on table, but when go on the ground, it becomes actually a conflict. You have caused a conflict. So what I would do is, first of all, I would do the mathematical algorithm and get not necessarily the exact, but the approximate numbers of the constituencies. Then after that, you move on the ground and interview, work with the people. Tell them these are our proposals. Let the people give their input in those delimitations. My work experience, because I'm a practitioner of a very long service, have come to understand actually most of the problems that bedevil Kenyans, the solutions are with the people. Solutions are on the ground. And when you are able to synergize what you have proposed and what the people have agreed, then you come and do the fair delimitation map. And from there now you again get the feedback for people to do what? To give the thumbprint, to confirm this is what we want. It may be probably some constituencies, not necessarily mathematically, may not fall within the exact deviation. But the most important thing is that people want and feel comfortable with that because of the aspect of cultural issues, the community of interest, because sometimes you don't split a community of interest, and then our geographical factors are also very varied. We cannot be able to give a weight in a formula to represent, for example, a geographical factor, because what is in Murang'a, for example, is every ridge a river, every ridge a river. So if you try to combine two ridges, you are creating a conflict. Because now to try and cross over to the other ridge, you have to go almost 40 kilometers to just go to the other person across the ridge. So when you are working with the people, you are able to see how best we can be able to delimit those boundaries, because they are supposed to be actually to give peace to the people. I think that's what Kregler said, that the boundaries should be able to bring harmony to the people. That's
All right. Thank you very
that's
much.
how I would do it.
I'm satisfied with your responses. Thank you. I wish you well.
Thank you,
Chair.
Sante, I invite Madam Koki to ask you some questions.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Mureithi.
Yes, Madam.
I would like to ask you a question relating to delimitation of boundaries,
Yes.
electoral boundaries. That is your area of expertise.
Yes.
Can you explain to the panel and Kenyans who are watching you how communities get disenfranchised through gerrymandering?
Yes, thank you, Madam. Gerrymandering is actually an American thing which has been important in almost all the limitations, which I think originated because of the white people not wanting the blacks to have a big population so that they don't get a vote when blacks were allowed to vote, I think, in the 1960s. So they do a constituency to make sure that.
Just focus on Kenya.
Yes.
We don't have much time.
So how
So
they are
that is-
disenfranchised, one is when they are not consulted. Because you go do the boundary and then you come and tell the people this is the boundary that we have for this constituency. So somebody will not be happy because they did not contribute.
Let me just, clarify this.
Yes.
For example, you worked from April to November
Yes.
in the boundaries IIBR.
Yes.
And during that time, they were demarcating boundaries.
Yes.
So what actually has happened in Kenya is that people have been disenfranchised. Communities, members of different constituencies have actually been disenfranchised to the level that they cannot have, representation. So I just wanted you to clearly show what has happened, how it has happened, and while you are answering it, how we can avoid it should you get to become a member. Just a few examples.
Yes.
Just draw for us the picture in our mind to show that.
What happened in the previous, sometimes the limitations, it was politically led. And whoever had favor probably with maybe the then political power would be able to have a constituency which is carved for them. And then the other people probably who did not have favor would be left lumped together and they would be very unhappy. So that brought a lot of disenfranchisement or dissatisfactions with the people because they could see this person amekatiwa hapa so that nobody can move him from parliament because he is only given the people who are going to support him. Then two, what we need to do and what we actually did is through seed part principle method that I developed is you go on the ground and you work with the people and you educate the people to understand the value of the vote first, which is actually lacking a lot in our electoral process, so that they can see now it's competitive. It's not a favor for anybody. So everybody is supposed to be able to get almost an equal probability of becoming voted for of becoming even a candidate. Because I know with this constituency set the way it is, then nobody has been favored. And therefore I can also bring myself to as a candidate because I know I can now be competitive. So I think that is what has brought a lot of challenges, and that is what we are trying to work against.
Mr. Murithi, I know you have reading your CV.
Yes.
I know you developed a system.
Yes.
That was used to try to bring fairness.
Yes.
In the drawing of electoral boundaries to ensure that to address the problem of gerrymandering.
Yes.
So what I was asking you to explain that framework, it was how are people made to be disenfranchised because of gerrymandering? Just the how.
Okay. They are disenfranchised because how the gerrymandering does, it only carves the constituencies or the electoral boundary in a manner that it only gets a certain community together and leaving the other communities out. And the people who are left out do not have a chance now to get a fair voting process, unless I'm not getting your question properly.
You are trying to explain it. I was actually thinking, for example, a place where you have the same community, like, for example, Mathioya.
Yes.
That is one of a good example of what you're explaining when it was made.
Yes.
Everybody there is Kikuyu in Muranga.
Yes.
And they come from the same, except there are some differences.
Yes.
So the drawing of Mathioya left some people disenfranchised. So that is what I was looking for. But you have explained it in other ways.
Yes.
But
because Mathioya actually was created for a specific candidate, and that is why it is among the constituencies that could not even meet the threshold of the population quota.
Thank you, Mr. Mareithi, and all the best. Thank you, Chair.
And Mr. Mareithi could not solve that problem when you had the
problem. When we had the opportunity, we were told not to touch the saved constituencies. They were protected. So these are protected. They remain the way they are. So these other areas now can be worked on. But and because of the pressure that was then, we said the next review, because they will not be protected, we are going to apply the criteria that is just and fair for everybody.
Okay, FCP Tanui has a follow-up question for you.
Actually, not a follow-up. Yeah, as I said earlier, you know, listening to you, Silas, there's so much that I've learned that I didn't know about you. Boundaries or elections, both actually, elections and boundaries, are more or less similar to lands in terms of sensitivity. And having been a commissioner at the National Land Commission, we are aware of what transpired. Even I think during your tenure, you were chairman at some point.
Yes.
So there were a lot of issues. So similarly, IEBC is a very sensitive commission. You've seen what has happened before in terms of governance, the camps that are there. And I suspect even at NLC, there were camps at the National Land Commission. So what lessons, having served at Boundaries Review Commission, National Land Commission, what lessons did you learn at NLC that can help you as you given an opportunity to serve as an IEBC commissioner, will help you in addressing the governance challenges that are there at IEBC?
Thank you, CPA Tanui. Governance and corporate governance. When a body like maybe the new commission comes into place, in my view, we don't take it for granted that these are all qualified persons in all areas. The first thing I would advise to be able to have synergy in working as one team, not a group, but a team. First of all, we have to gel, to agree on some norms. Then one and very most important thing, during induction, we don't take it for granted that everybody has gone through corporate governance. All the commissioners must be run through corporate governance and retooled. Whether you did it or not, you need to be retooled to be able to be told, and it should be customized towards the IEBC, so that the commissioners are brought together on page to start together and to know when do we have corporate responsibility or collective responsibility, when do we have individual responsibility. Because sometimes what happened in the National Land Commission is a problem of individual responsibilities as opposed to collective responsibility. Good governance is when you take collective decision, then you are bound by it and you all suffer the consequences. But if I go out there like a lone commissioner and make my own decisions, I'll be judged independently. So I would advocate for corporate governance training, customized for the commissioners who will be appointed. And then we also have our ground rules. And in my view, particularly in making decisions, if there is any dissenting view, it's not good enough just to say I dissent. I think we should be able to write an explanation as to why I've dissented. I like the way the lawyers do, or the judges. You say why you disagreed with the majority. I think even in commissions, when there's collective decision making, and probably not all of us agree, I should be able to pen down my dissent and say exactly why I differed with the collective decision. Much as collectively, we'll take that note. And I think that is what has been lacking in many, not only IEBC, even where I was, that outright explanation of decision, so that you hide behind the collective responsibility. Now, if you dissent, say it in black and white. That's what I believe.
Thank you. And lastly, I think I was with you when we were doing the 290 constituencies.
Yes.
And I believe you remember the final days of finalizing those 290 constituencies. In fact, one of the key tasks of this new commission or new list of commissioners for IBC will be to do the delimitation of boundaries, the way you did in 290. And looking back, your experiences amongst the commissioners, and I am very aware of the last days when we are finalizing on that list of constituencies, the way commissioners were putting together in camps. What advice would you give to this new team of IBC commissioners on how to manage that process of delimitation of boundaries?
Thank you, CPA Tanui. Yes, it's true. We made very many a number of proposals as directors, where I was then, but not some of them were taken. I think there was pressure, so much pressure between the two opposing parties then. There was ODM and PNU. And you know, whenever you get an extra constituency in your stronghold, that means an extra vote in parliament. So I think that is what was causing a lot of ripples. But what I think I should be able to do now, because I have that experience, and I can quickly identify even the problematic areas, because the problematic areas, in my view, the constituencies which were protected, we revisit them. I checked through the population of 2019, and luckily, I think because of devolution, most of those constituencies have actually grown, particularly Isiolo West. I mean, Isiolo North is now not, in my view, it cannot be able to be, to be one of the protected. If you look at Bura in Tana River, you look at Lam West, they have grown and the populations are basically going to attain the quota. And what I would urge, if I find favor with this panel, is my commissioners to be dependent as a commission in making our decisions of the political pressures that are going to be on the commission, because it will be a big political pressure also, again. But this time, in my view, it will be much simpler to me if I find favor than when it was there, because that time we are starting from the scratch We want to define the basics. We want to define what for example, is a sparsely populated area. We took a lot of time to do that. And finally, we agreed with my team that it is any area that has a population density less than the national population density, and we did that through GIS and other methods. It was also difficult to even explain to the commissioners what is a city, because that time we all or many believed that Kisumu and Mombasa were cities, because the president had declared Kisumu as a city, he had declared Mombasa as a city. But when we went to the law and we wanted to stick to the law, it's only Nairobi which was qualifying as a city through the royal charter. It's only Queen Elizabeth who could declare a city in Kenya. And it is only Nairobi which had been declared a city in 1954. So it is the only place where we applied the upper limit of the population. Today we have about 5 cities. That is why I believe the work will be much cheaper, because now we have larger populations to distribute to the cities. But the only challenge I find is probably maybe Eldoret and Kisumu and Naivasha, and Nakuru, because the cities are not county cities, unlike Nairobi, which is a city county, and Mombasa is a city county. These are not city counties. So we'll have to come up with an understanding approach on how to deal with the limitation in cities that are not city counties. I remember the seed part
I
principle.
think you can save the rest. You will apply if considered. Thank you very much, and back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to ask Misati to ask some questions. Misati, please.
Thanks so much, Chair. Kinoti?
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much. At least you have a very good understanding of the boundary, and because you participated in it. I want to take you to another side of understanding the electoral processes, and let's now look at the issue of during the general elections. IPC usually hires temporary staff, large scale, and sometimes they get overwhelmed. Please, from where you sit, will you please tell the panel some of the risks you can associate with such a high number of staff during the general elections, and then mention 2 measures you can take to mitigate those risks.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. The risk of having those very many staff that come on board during the elections cycle, the voting, basically is like the voting period, is one, the training, because they're just recruited and given kind of a snapshot training on exactly what they are going to do. Not all of them understand on exactly what they are going to do. And once they have been deployed, there's no follow-up, because everybody else, the presiding officer is engaged and everybody else is engaged. In fact, I was thinking some of the problems why we have sometimes spoiled votes in a polling station is because the voters are not guided well on how to mark the ballot paper. Forget about the training and all that. How in that area period of environment of voting, because I know all of you have voted. When you get in, you are given 6 ballot papers. Sometimes the ballot paper for the constituent, for example, could be having 24 candidates. You don't even know how to carry it, and you are maybe the elite. So what I was thinking, in that training, coupled with the training, I think the arrangement of the polling station booths can be rearranged, so that, in my view, to avoid a lot of spot votes, including votes being put in different containers, ballot boxes. If, for example, I walk in and I'm checked and I'm confirmed to be a voter, let me go to the clerk who will give me 2 ballot papers, probably for the president, and maybe the woman rep. And then after that, I go to the polling booth, which is separate. I mark the 2 and put them in the box. Then I pick, instead of the way I collected all of them, I go and pick the other 2. And I mark them and put them in the respective boxes. And then I also pick the other 2 and I mark them. When they are marked like that, the chances of putting a ballot paper in a different box will be seriously eliminated. The chances of also marking wrongly will be eliminated. So I think training of those staff can be enhanced. But now we have very many young people who understand quickly. And I think during our voter education, we can be able also to be explaining people about the voting process. And then when we come in as IBC, let's say rearrange that booth and see how best it can be friendly to the people who are coming to vote, so that we don't have those spot votes. I was counting them, sir, and I was imagining from that evaluation report, I think over 200,000 spoiled votes. And I could see the polling stations were 46,000. So if, for example, you make a mistake of one ballot per box in a polling station, those are 6. You multiply 6 by 42,000, you get very many thousands. And that is why we actually get even those polling spot ballot papers.
That's good. The spoiled ballot papers were 113,000 for presidential and 614, not 200,000. Otherwise, thanks so much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. I want to invite Ms. Fatuma. Please, Fatuma.
Mr. Kinoti,
Yes, madam.
in your opinion, what's the best way to keep non-state actors meaningfully engaged between one election period to the other election period?
Come again, meaningfully?
Meaningfully engaged.
Engaged, yes.
Between one election period
Yes.
and another.
Non-state actors, we have the non-government organizations, the faith-based organizations that come in to support in their own way in the electoral process. But once our election is over, they move away. And now you want us to retain them in a continuous training process. I think that's a beautiful idea. Like faith-based organizations. These are institutions that are with us throughout. There are even local institutions with us throughout. So even in churches and mosques, when we are talking about civic education, we can be able to give them a chance to also explain to the public, the organizations, how the voting is done. And now to make sure that they are completely engaged, we have an MOU with the non-state actors. Number one, to identify exactly what it is that they are going to support the commission with. Of course, not the core issues, but the civic education. And then we agree on a calendar of how to engage them throughout in the process. And I believe when we do that and engage them throughout in the process, we can be able to educate so many people. Because from where I sit, I strongly believe that the problems we have in the electoral process is because many people don't know the value of the vote. We can tell them on how to mark the ballot paper. You can tell them on how to vote. But as long as somebody does not value or know the value of the vote, I think we'll be doing injustice to our people. That civic education should be able to be progressive. If I was in a position, actually democracy and good governance would be part of the curriculum in the school. just like I'm very passionate about hygiene and garbage collection, which I believe should also be part of the curriculum in the school, so that as people grow, they know about democracy, they know about good governance, they know why they need to vote. Because you don't vote because maybe professor becomes your MP. I should be able to understand as a Kenyan, I'm voting so that the economy becomes good. I'm voting so that there is peace. I'm voting so that I can enjoy the fruits of our country. Once that is inculcated in our minds, the value of the vote, then even these errors that we see will not be there. I've been a voter for many years. And when you go to the voting station, you find there are people who are staying at the gate because they don't want to vote because nobody has seen them. Seen them, of course, is no politician has come to facilitate them to do what? To vote. But if you know the value of your vote, consciously you go to the polling station, consciously you take time to mark it correctly, and then you'll be able to cast it correctly. So civic education to me is number one, civic education is number two, civic education is number three.
Thank you very much, and I wish you well.
Welcome, Nicodemus, to ask you some questions. Mr. Bore, please.
Thank you, Chair. Silas,
Yes, sir.
it is good you've mentioned that hygiene, which includes garbage collection and IEBC, should be part of the curriculum.
I believe so.
Why garbage collection and hygiene?
And the opportunity to study in Japan. And one of the things that I learned when I got there, in every homestead, there are 3 containers. And those 3 containers are labeled. This one is for cans, this one is for biodegradable, this one is for this. And the child at birth, they can be able to identify the colors. If you eat a banana, she knows, or the child knows even which can I'm going to drop that banana left over. Which can I'm going to throw, which can I'm going to throw the bottle. And even when we went for picnics, like in Hur Park, you find everybody is there and there are so many people at bottles. But the moment you wake up, everybody will wake up having collected the garbage and drop it in the major bins. And the compound will be left clean and the council will not appear there to go and clean the compound. That is why I think if it is inculcated from the start, young people internalize things. And when they internalize things, it becomes like a religion. They're able to follow it and they're able to implement it. If we bring value of the vote, particularly in our young generations, we have introduced democracy, particularly in the schools, on how people can elect their prefect and so forth. But we have not told them the purpose of having that prefect. I've been a school board chairman, and we have had problems with the students who have been elected to come and sit in the board. Because when they elected and they come as activists. They want to advocate for what the students want. We must have X in our school. We must have this. Because they have not understood why they are coming actually to the board of management to articulate the real issues of the students. So I think that value of vote to me is something that we cannot compromise. It should be like integrity, which we cannot compromise.
Thank you, Kinoti. Now, as a commissioner given a chance to serve at the IEBC.
Yes.
And it's not your first time serving as a commissioner, maybe because you have served in the Lands Commission, a different capacity.
Yes.
What mechanism can a commissioner use to provide strategic guidance while preserving the operational autonomy of the Secretariat?
Thank you very much. You see, as a commissioner, our role, or the role of commissioners, is policy, development, strategy, oversight, and facilitating good governance. But believe me, too, some of those policies that we develop originate from the management. Actually, in the committees that commissioners chair, you ask the problem. As a commissioner, I'm supposed to ask the staff, what is their problem? Because we need to do what we call in human resource needs assessment. What is the problem that is bedeviling your area of operation? And then out of those problems is when I'll be able now to develop a collective policy in consultation with the staff. Because I can't develop a policy and place it for them. I mean, I've not addressed their concerns. I should be able to work it the other way around. We consult with the staff, we come up with our needs assessment, then we find what is it that we can do, and from there now we start working out on our way to solve the problem. And once we are finding that solution collectively with the staff, is when now we can develop our policy, and as the person, maybe commissioner chairing that committee, I'll be able to propagate it to the plenary of the commission, and then we can share, we get further input, consult even from outside if need be, and come up with a firmed policy on what we should do. Even a simple policy sometimes, like taking a photocopy of the Form 34E. There should be a policy that when you are taking that photocopy, use a plain surface. Ensure that once you place that Form 34 and you are taking an image of it, ensure that that surface is plain, so that when it is transmitted, it doesn't have other backgrounds which may raise you and cry, like what we saw in 2022. I think there was a Form 34 like that, which brought her name and it became a big contention. So small things that can be able to fill up to form a major policy. That's how I work it, bottom up.
Thank you, Chairman, and all the best. 𝐲𝐞𝐚𝐫.
Thank you. I want to invite Professor to ask you some questions, Prof.
Thank you, Chair. Silas,
Yes, Professor.
I want to ask you a question on adaptive leadership.
Yes.
Suppose a sudden court ruling disrupts the electoral timeline 2 months to polling day. What leadership actions would you take as a commissioner, together with your fellow commissioners, to steer the process forward? And I can give you an example.
Yes, give me an example.
I believe in 2017, there was a court ruling, which, although it didn't give an order, said that the returning officer or presiding officer, I can't recall, were not deployed as per law, which means that it was just the eve of elections. But this one is 2 months to the elections, and there's a court ruling. It's a hypothetical question, but it has happened. You remember, even the 2012 elections was pushed to 2013.
Yes.
So such a scenario, how would you, together with your commissioners, move?
First of all, the law must be obeyed, because we can't go against the law. But there are provisions on how to go around the law. That is what I believe. So the first thing I would advise my fellow commissioners is we study the ruling and we find the areas where we can be able to appeal, even if not to to go against the ruling, because sometimes the ruling is good, but you don't want to go against it. So I would urge my commissioners and consult with even legal minds and seek to have a stay of execution of that ruling, so that when it is stayed, then the status quo takes place and we can be advised, we can be able to proceed and carry out the election. That is the legal approach I would advise.
Thank you. My last question on this segment is on transparency obligations. What are the legal and ethical requirements for public officers, such as IEBC commissioners, regarding financial disclosure and conflict of interest?
Thank you. That is provided in the Public Ethics Act. And as a state officer, I'm supposed to disclose conflict of interest. In fact, it's not, in my view, particularly if we are sitting as a commission and the pertinent matter is of great public concern. What I would advocate as a rule is that we have a register of declaration of public interest, so that if I have a public interest, I also register, not only declaring it, but it should be evidenced, so that when it comes back later, there will be no argument, because probably meetings are not unanswered. There will be no arguments that I did not declare the conflict of interest, so it should also be registered. And the other question was on...
No, it was just that. And regarding financial disclosure.
Yes, financial disclosure. The law requires that anything that a state officer or even a public officer is given, even as a present, exceeding 20,000 value, must be declared and surrendered to the public. So there should be nothing like hiding back, because, Professor, all this goes around integrity. And I read a book by your professor colleague, 𝐲𝐞𝐚-𝐫 on betrayal of public trust. And one of his quotations inside there is, a leader can miss some things and still become a good leader, but integrity is not one of them that you can compromise. Thank you, Professor.
He was my boss at the university.
Thank you. He has written a nice book on integrity and temptations that state officers go through.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Professor, do you want to ask the last two questions?
Sure. Silas Kinoti Muridi.
Yes, sir.
This is usually we take you back to high school. And we start with your area of expertise.
Yes.
Where it's just about facts. And one of the areas you have elaborated as your area of expertise is in boundary delimitation.
Yes.
This country, if you leave the current 290 constituencies, this country has gone through 4 other boundary delimitations.
Yes.
And include the independence one. So you can tell us the years of those boundary delimitations and the number of constituencies. In other words, if 1963 was 80, well, the next one took us to how much? And the next one took us to how much? And the next one took us to how much in which year? And then for the immediate one after 1963, if you can tell us the rationale of that increase.
quite a mouthful. Maybe I can try working backwards. We have currently the 290 constituencies. The previous constituencies were 210.
Yeah.
210 constituencies. We ran them 2007. Then we had 188 constituencies.
Yeah.
1992.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had how many other constituencies? Let me not guess. Yes.
Okay, thank you. My last question is again general, as per high school. Name any 2 African authors who have won international acclaim. These are literary scholars. It could be a Nobel. It could just be renowned. 2 African authors.
Okay, there is
literature scholars. Yeah.
Yes, there is 𝐲𝐞𝐚𝐫. There is Chinua Achebe, 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐨𝐭𝐢 Yinka.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, our brother Murithi. We appreciate the information we have learned from you. I don't know if they have any question or comment to make.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have any question. Just want again to thank you very much for giving me a chance, because I've learned a lot from the engagement that we have had. And I also believe I've put up my case, and I'm looking forward that I'll find favor and be able to particularly use my integrity qualities in helping this country in the process of good governance, because I strongly believe in Kenya, we have achieved very well in democracy, particularly in freedom of speech, freedom of association, even freedom of owning property anywhere, freedom to picket. But we have not been able to advance that democracy to good governance. And because in my view, good governance should be able to be given by the democracy. And then good governance will be able to give us peace and prosperity. And that is all what we want as Kenyans. And I pray that as an emerging democratic country in this sphere, the next commission will advance it very far and will be a reference point in this region. Thank you.
Thank you and blessings to you. You'll find your certificates at the door or with one of our staff. Feel free to pick the notebook and the pen. Maybe the water also. Thank you. Yes, there you are.
Okay, thank you very much for the gift.
Asante.
It's not more than 20,000.
No, it's not. Asante.